What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is the Dingo Talk Alumni Tour. My guest this week is Emmy Award winner Jhamal Robinson, class of 1998. Jamal's going to tell us everything about how he went from LA to Atlanta to finding his way to Bethany, back to Atlanta, and then now where he lives today in LA, and everything that happened to him in Bethany and everything that's happened to him since. But without further ado, remember this quote. We don't remember days, we remember moments, which came directly from this interview. Jhamal, take it away. You want to know by now. You want to know by now. You want to know by now. You want to know. You want to know. What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is the Dingo Talk Alumni Tour. My guest this week is Jhamal Robinson, class of 1998. Jhamal, thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us.
Yeah, of course. No problem, Carlos. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
So we're gonna do this the way we do every week. I just want to know, first and foremost, how did you find Bethany?
Oh gosh, how did I find Bethany? It's a story, I tell you. So I back when I was a youngin, and there were websites and computers were just becoming a thing, and probably more websites than computers. I heard about Bethany because I applied to Carnegie Mellon, and I knew that I wanted to go away to college. I was living in Atlanta, Georgia, in the Atlanta, Georgia area, and I also had ties to Los Angeles, which is where I am now. And I didn't want to be in Atlanta, and I didn't want to go to LA. I wanted to go far away, so I applied to Carnegie Mellon, and then I realized I don't want to go to that big of a school. And I just kind of want to go something a little smaller. And a friend of mine at the time, and still a friend of mine today, Chris Cassidy, his brother, Jason Cassidy, I want to say class of 96 or 97, he was at Bethany and told me all about it. I was really turned on by just, the location, the size of classes, 13-to-1 student teacher ratio. And it just seemed like the fit based on what he was saying. So I applied by calling and getting a brochure, and I had a tear sheet on the back, and I filled it out, did my, I believe it was an essay, I can't remember. And yeah, I got in, and the first day of orientation was my first time ever being on campus. I actually did not visit Bethany prior to attending, so that was a shot across the bow to see if I was going to be able to do this or not. We'll see, but I did, and I'm happy for it.
So what were those first thoughts? You're stepping on campus, first day of orientation, and what's the thought when you first lay eyes on the place?
Well, I had seen the picture, so I knew it was going to be in the mountains. I knew it was going to be very rural. I didn't realize how rural it actually was. I had at least hoped for or thought there would be a traffic light, but there wasn't. And
there
still
is 6 miles down the road.
Yeah, there is. Yes, there is. But in the town of Bethany, there's not. But my dad and my brother and one of my brothers, actually, we drove from Atlanta, Georgia. Minivan packed, full. Drove up to the main entrance there. Saw Old Main, and I fell in love, quite frankly, because I knew that it was going to be the right size school for me. There's a lot of hills, and I could have used the exercise, so that was good. And I just knew that, for me, being away was going to be much more advantageous because I had traveled as a kid anyway, all over the world. I was constantly gone from home. So it was, being away from home wasn't new, but being away from the city, like Atlanta, though I lived in the suburbs of Atlanta, still being in away from the city was appealing. So, arriving in front of Moreland Hall was something that I won't forget. I can remember it as if it was yesterday. And I saw Moreland Hall. I walked into my dorm on 3rd floor, and fell in love.
So when you came to Bethany, what was your major? I guess is there, or did you come in undecided, or did you know what you were?
Yeah. So well, before as I was applying to colleges, I knew I wanted to be a theater major.
Okay.
That was the thing that I wanted to do. And my dad said, that's absolutely not going to happen. You're not going to be a theater major. You're going to get a degree that you can get a job in. And if you want to do theater, then you can do it as a minor. So I wasn't paying the bill. He was, and my mom was. so I had to go with whatever the payee was telling me I had to go with. But listen, at the end of the day, I appreciate that my mom and dad, put their foot down and said, this is what we think you should be doing. And they were right. I feel like my English courses and my professors really put me on track, quite frankly, to where I am today, and being able to communicate written and verbally in what I feel is a proper way. So yeah, it was undecided, though I wanted to do theater, ended up with English.
So you bring up theater. We had Gary Capel on many months ago, and
Yeah.
and he talked about. There's actually two stories here. There's a Gary Capel story, and there's a John Cunningham story. So the Gary Capel story was when you first time you stepped foot on stage in the theater, and you were a part of everything. It was like, wow, this guy, like there was a pull from just the theater side of things. You had an idea of how to direct, how this should maybe, well, it says it this in the script, but maybe try going this route. Or so he talked about that. And was that your passion in theater? Was more the directing, the producing, that side, or did you want to be the guy in front of the audience? And
the actor. I wanted to be the actor. I wanted to be the guy in front of the audience. I love to entertain people. My parents were both entertainers. Not necessarily on stage, though they are both are and were accomplished singers themselves. My mom, pseudo opera, both of them in the church choir. My mom, she sang with a talent by the name of Barbara Mandrell many years ago. And my dad was very much into music and, playing the drums. And so it was I come from a very musical family. My brothers as well. One of my brothers is DJ. So I come from a family of entertainers, and that's what I enjoyed. Did I have any passion for behind the scenes? No, which is strange because that's where I am now, is behind the scenes.
So the other story, and it goes to you coming onto campus, and it's your first day there, and John Cunningham, who we're going to have on in a couple weeks.
Great guy.
He says, you got to get Jhamal Robinson on the show. And let me tell you, the first time I saw him, I walked up to him and I said, offensive or defensive line? And he turned and looked at me and said, neither. I want to be in the theater. And just, to this day, his mind is still just, he said, he goes, I expected this guy was going to be all-American football player, this whole nine coming in, and nope. But when he sang, woo, baby.
Well, I appreciate that story by JC. I have many fond memories of JC. In fact, when I was just on campus a few weeks ago, ironically, as I was walking down the hill from Old Main, during a board meeting, he was pulling up with his two dogs in the car, in this giant Hummer, I think it was, and so which was just hysterical to me. But this giant Hummer, and he stops me, and we had a nice chat. Yeah, he's right. I remember that. I remember that moment. I remember that story. We do not remember days, we remember moments, and that was a moment for me because I was comfortable enough to say, nope, not doing sports, not doing football or basketball. No, sir. I'm here for theater. My parents said I can't get a degree, but I'm by golly, I'm going to be in theater somehow. So I remember that day. I remember that story. And like I said, I have fond memories of him and throughout my time there.
So what was the social life like for you at Bethany? Because I mean, it was there was a changing time. We're in a changing time now. There's a lot less just in the town, just given the size of it and some circumstances. But what was social life like for you?
Yeah, social life for me was social life for me at Bethany was it was interesting because Bethany, there isn't a whole lot to do outside of going to class. We did have Bubba's Bison Inn, of course, and but I wasn't a drinker. I didn't have a sip of alcohol until way after college, actually, until I was 23. So my source of entertainment was watching all the drunks stumbling up the hill, and being the designated driver if needed. But yeah, I mean, listen, I was always a busy bee. I was always someone who really enjoyed being around different groups of people, not just one group. I loved the aspect of small college because then I could get to know everybody, which is again one of the reasons why I went there. But yeah, I was never really a nightlife kind of person. My time was spent in the theater. My time was spent. I was a student ambassador, so I gave the tours during the week and on the weekends. I really enjoyed, talking about the college and talking about my experience. And then during college, as some folks during my class or during my time would know, I actually did modeling. And so I was traveling a lot. I was always gone pretty much all the time. And I also worked with a nonprofit organization, which is, I'm not sure if it's still around actually, called Pride, which is like a drug abuse prevention agency, very much like DARE or Arrive Alive, but they use performing arts to spread a drug-free message. So I was traveling a lot with them as well. So oddly enough, I wasn't on campus as much as you would think. On the weekends, I was usually gone traveling somewhere.
So did you get involved in Greek life or anything like that?
Yeah, I got involved very, very briefly in Greek life. I got involved in Delta Tau Delta, and I enjoyed the time that I was in it, and I was involved with it. But like I said, I wasn't really someone who wanted to be with one particular group. I wanted to be with a lot of folks and everybody, and so I ended up moving to Campbell Hall, which is now the physical plant, I believe.
Yeah.
So I moved to Campbell Hall, and I enjoyed the rest of my time there because there was a variety of people from Greek to independence. There was a variety of people there, and I never wanted to live in the smaller houses on Greek Hills. I wanted to be in the big dorm. Yeah.
So you touched on the 13-to-1 when it came to the faculty to student ratio. Talk a little bit more about what the classes were like that you took, and maybe if there's a couple professors that you really like, the moments that you fondly remember from them.
Oh gosh, so many. You're gonna make me want to cry here. No, listen, I remember the classes. I remember being at class with Herb Weaver, the art professor, being at his home, meeting his family, having class there while his daughter's running around, his little daughter, which I'm sure is no longer little, running around. Dr. Cole, I remember very, very fondly being in Cochran Hall and having a 4-person class there. I remember being really, really hot in the room that day, on multiple occasions. Professor Grimes, just a dynamic professor who I absolutely to this day admire and cherish the time that I was able to spend with him. Because English was my major, that's where I spent most of my time. Psychology, my psychology professors, I didn't do much science or biology at all, but that was, I obviously had to take one class, but for the most part, I spent most of my time in Cochrane, or the dean's office. No, I'm just kidding. But I spent most of my time in Cochrane, and then the rest of my time in Steinman, I believe it's called Steinman Theater, in Steinman, and then just to throw in there, I spent a lot of time at what we knew as Pendleton Heights, which is now, I believe, Crispin Manor. And yeah, Pendleton Heights was where we were able to go to the 3rd floor of Pendleton Heights and walk in and go watch movies on VHS. We could sleep over at Pendleton Heights. Yeah, it was Bethany. I have very, very, very fond memories of Bethany, which is why I'm still heavily involved, because I want to be sure that other students behind me and us have the same type of memories.
Lastly, and then we'll send it to a break.
Yeah.
So I've heard what Dr. Cole was like from a couple other guests that we've had. What made her such a good professor?
So many things made Dr. Cole a great professor. Humility was one. She made you feel, and I'm sure even today probably still makes those around her feel, that they are the only person in the room. Even though the classes were small, so you kind of always felt like the only person in the room. Dr. Cole was somebody, or is somebody, that I feel just gave me the peace of mind that while college was tough, she was going to do everything she could to make sure that you graduated, to make sure that maybe you didn't get an A, but you passed and you learned something.
Mm-hmm.
And then at one point, and this is probably a myth, but at one point I heard she wasn't even a doctor, but we just called her Dr. Cole
because she carried herself
She carried herself, and I need to actually call her daughter Annie and talk to her, because I remember that story and I'm like, I don't care what she is, she's a doctor to me, right? She's Dr. Cole to me, and that's probably a huge myth. I'm sure it's just a rumor that went around, but that to say, Dr. Cole was one of the premier professors that I ever had interaction with.
I lied. That wasn't the last question. I'm going to throw you a curveball here. This one not about Bethany. It's just I'm trying something new this week.
Sure.
If you could give your 4-year-old self some advice, what would it be?
Oh man, you're killing me here. If I give my 4-year-old self advice, there's a very dynamic lady that I work with by the name of Bozeman St. John. She is the chief marketing officer for Netflix. Follow her on Instagram. She is incredible. Mm-hmm. She had the same question posed on her Instagram, or a very similar question of what would you tell your 4-year-old self, or what would you tell your childhood self? I would tell my 4-year-old self, don't sweat the small stuff. I would tell my 4-year-old self, you are different and that's okay. I would also tell my 4-year-old self, don't try to be something you're not. Dare to be different, and dare to be great. Because I think what we do as adults, or not even as adults, as college students, is we're still, even from high school into college, trying to fit in. Mm-hmm. And I get that, because I was trying to fit in. And quite frankly, for a portion of college, I wasn't my authentic self, because I wasn't out as a gay man. And that caused a lot of swirl and consternation. That for me was something that I wish I would have been braver back then. Because when I finally came out, people didn't care.
You're Jhamal. You're just Jhamal.
People couldn't have cared less. So what I hope that even people who are thinking that the same question, it's a great question. I hope that people do also feel like they too can listen to what I'm saying and maybe what others are saying, and start to remember that, and start to think that, and start to live their authentic selves.
Well, I think that's a perfect point to take a pause. We're going to send it to Harry Chambers at Chambers General Store. Cool. You can, if you're here in the town of Bethany, you can go in, get a sandwich, get the daily lunch specials, and all the other things that Chambers has to offer. Because if Chambers doesn't have it, you don't need it. It's a proven fact here in the town of Bethany. And if you stopped in Bethany and didn't go to Chambers, I don't know how you missed it, because it's right on Main Street. You can't miss it. It's a big old building. Also, make sure that you keep an eye out for the Chambers General Store shirts that say if they don't have it, you don't need it on the back. They're selling those. You can go on their Facebook page, or if you're in town, buy them from the store. But this is Jhamal Robinson, class of 1998. I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is the Dingo Talk Alumni Tour, and Harry Chambers, take it away.
You've just watched another exciting episode of Dingo Talk, recorded in the secret lair deep in the hills of Bethany, West Virginia. Let me give a shout out to my man Don over at Maple Shade Outdoor. He's got some great stuff going on over there on YouTube and Instagram. Please make sure you check him out. Also, now available as promised, we have the second edition Bethany, West Virginia Mushroom Capital of the World t-shirts and our Chambers General Store. If we don't have it, you don't need it t-shirts. Available in all sizes. So make sure you stop by the store for a t-shirt, breakfast sandwich, or sausage, biscuits, and gravy, and make sure to check out those daily lunch specials. Now back to you, Dingo.
What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is the Dingo Talk Alumni Tour. My guest, Jhamal Robinson, class of 1998, and currently with at Netflix, with Netflix. How is that? You're, as the English person, I don't want Mrs. Cole to watch it and be like,
You could say both. You can say at or with. Either one is totally fine.
So we left off with you, and we asked you. You gave us the advice on what you would give your childhood self. Fast forward back to, I guess it would be 1998, and were you a winter or a spring comper?
I was spring. Yes.
So what was going into comps? What was your feelings? Because English can't be an easy comp field to be.
No, not at all.
And what were some of your studying tactics?
Yeah, so going into comps, I mean, first of all, let's just actually reverse even back to freshman and applying for Bethany. I had no idea what comps was. I didn't know that there were comps. And I hesitate to say on camera, I don't know if I would have attended Bethany had I known there was comps, but I did, and I'm good. I'm okay, and I made it through. But comps is a very unique process to college, and then a very unique process to Bethany. And I think it's what sets Bethany students apart from the rest of the world. I wish people knew a lot more about it because, especially employers, because it is actually something that I feel you are taking the culmination of 4 years or just of that discipline, whether you've been there for 4 years or not, and you are bringing it all into a couple of days and you're trying to figure it out.
And man, they're a stressful couple of days.
That's a stressful couple of days, but and comps has even evolved since then. I can't remember the specifics of mine, but I can tell you the studying tactics that I had were you just better study as hard as you can because you have no clue what they're going to throw at you. You have an idea, obviously, but you don't know exactly what it's going to be. And for me, I was the average student. I was not the, I didn't have the special tassel. Believe you me, I was the average student that just was there getting through and doing as best as I could. And I was okay. I was fine, but doing the best that I could. So I would find myself holed up in one of the little cubby holes in the library. I loved sitting and I know it's still there because I just went there a few weeks ago, sitting in the little cubby hole overlooking the tennis court. At that time, what is now, I believe, the health center was a pool, was an indoor pool. And I just remember sitting there, snow falling, and studying. That was certainly leading from J term into February, March, and then spring, of course. But just doing as much as I possibly could to make sure that come springtime, I was going to be okay, and I got through it.
So I get that leads into my other, and you touched on it a little bit, the best advice that you could give. And I'm going to guess it's study, and study some more.
Yeah. Study some more. That's probably the soundbite that's the takeaway from all of this is, I was not, in high school, I wasn't a big person. I wasn't a person that liked to study. I quickly learned when I got to Bethany, yep, you have to study. But also, even beyond that, Carlos, I think it's the It's the just pay attention, because if you just remotely pay attention and do you take your notes and quite frankly hold on to your notes. And back then our notes were in notebooks and they were in books, and we didn't have the digital footprint of our notes like the students today do. So we had to keep up with them, and we had to, when we moved out of our dorm and came back, we had to bring everything back because we had to really always revert back to it, even during our courses and into comps.
So coming out of graduation, because you take comps and then you have senior week, and then you graduate at the end of senior week. What was your first step outside of Bethany?
Yeah. Oh gosh. So outside of Bethany, I went back to Atlanta after Bethany, and I worked with Pride, the Parents Resource Institute for Drug Education. So I worked with Pride for about 6 months, and then I got a call to come work with the Entertainment Industries Council, which is a very similar organization, but in the entertainment industry. They are an organization that helps directors and producers and writers accurately portray drug abuse in the industry on film. And so in January of '99, I got in my car and drove basically back home, because LA is home again, which is where I am now. LA was home. It's where I was originally from before moving to Atlanta in '86. So I came back home and I started working with the Entertainment Industries Council. They told me use us as a stepping stone. Now, to revert back to the theatrical portion of my life, I wanted to be an actor. And so now I while I have an English degree, I still want to be an actor. So I actually moved to LA with the hopes of becoming a big celebrity and actor, and doing all of that. I quickly learned and realized acting is not what it's all cracked up to be. Being herded in like cattle for an audition, and knowing that of the hundreds of you that are in there that all look exactly like you, only one of you is going to get it. That was a little diminishing in some respects. So Entertainment Industries Council, they told me, the president, Brian Dyack, told me, use us as a stepping stone to get to where you want to be. If it's acting, fine. If it's somewhere else, fine. I ended up working behind the scenes on one of their award shows that the Entertainment Industries Council still produces today. The rest is quite frankly history. I loved being behind the scenes. I put up my acting hat. I did a couple of things out here, nothing noteworthy, but I did a couple of things out here for TV and theater, and I went behind the scenes, and I've been there ever since. From the Entertainment Industries Council to Moon Crescent Studios to Paramount to Warner Brothers. I work with Jerry Zucker, who's the director of Airplane and Airplane 2. I've worked with the likes of Doug Wick and Lucy Fisher, who did Stuart Little and Stuart Little 2. So I've worked with many, many people, again, all behind the scenes.
And so when do you go from, Paramount and Warner Brothers and working with these different people to, and I guess why was Discovery the next move?
Yeah. Well, the in between of all that, Carlos, is there's a freelance aspect of the industry. And so I actually went into freelance for a little while. And I worked on multiple shows. I'm trying to even just remember any of them. But I ended up going over to E! Entertainment and working as a line producer there. So that was a little more freelance. And then I went to MTV. I worked as a freelance production manager there. So I had a freelance world and component before I went to Yahoo Studios, and I was head of production for Yahoo Studios. And then I ended up at Discovery. So Discovery was 2012, September 2012 was when I started there. And I started off as a vice president of production management for TLC. After a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, I was promoted to a VP of Discovery Channel, and then really kind of kept growing from there until I became SVP of Production Management for North America.
So there's a couple Emmys there. We haven't gotten to those. There's a couple of them. I think if I got my math right, I counted 7. Am I right? Am I right there?
Well, no. There is actually only one actual win, but I have been nominated 6 times. So that's probably where the math is coming in. Yeah. So I've been nominated 6 times, and I won one Emmy in 2010 for an episode called "The Messiest Home in the Country," Clean House, with a very famous actress, Niecy Nash, who's from Rio 911. And Trish Sir, who is a very famous designer now. She does her own designing on the side, Mark Burnett's. And then Matt Iceman, who is, of course, on American Ninja Warrior. He did the Olympics as well. So anyway, so that cast of 4, they got me my Emmy as a line producer on Clean House.
And what was the feeling when you knew, or when they announced that you guys won? What was the feeling for you?
Well, interestingly enough, the year before I was nominated and for Clean House, and my husband said, yeah, we went and we didn't win that year. And then the next year we actually had he had something to do downtown as well. He had to do some work downtown because he's a lawyer. He was prepping for a trial or something. And we were nominated again, and he couldn't make it. And he said, "I know you're going to win this year because I'm not going to be there, and I'm going to really be upset that you won because I'm not there." But it was really, obviously he was being very tongue in cheek, and we won. And the reaction sitting in the audience was, it's shock at first because you hear the show name. But you had just heard the show name in a list. So when they say, and the Emmy goes to, and they said Clean House for the Messiest Home in the Country, the crowd erupts, but you're still sitting there in shock because you don't realize what they just said. And then, of course, it's a delayed reaction, and you go up there. I wasn't the one that gave the speech. Gina Rubinstein, who was the executive producer, gave the speech. But it was a proud moment, definitely, for me as a producer.
So, being that there were 6 nominations,
sure.
Do you know any of the other people that you were going up against during those 6?
Oh gosh. I'm like, oh boy. I want to say, I know the Macy's Day Parade was always a big contender within our particular section. American Idol was another one that I know we went up against. We went up against Queer Eye for the Straight Guy during one. And then I got nominated for How Do I Look, which is another show that I worked on at E! Entertainment or Style Network. And I want to say that How Do I Look went against one in the category. They went against the Tim Gunn show, and I'm totally forgetting the name of it, but the dress show. I'm forgetting.
Yeah, is it not Say Yes to the Dress? No,
not Say Yes to the Dress. Although Say Yes to Dress was in one of the categories as well. So yeah, so it's a good one. I can't remember the name of the Tim Gunn one, but anyway, so it was within the same genre. The Messiest Home in the Country. That was a part of a special class special is what that category was for the Emmys that year. And I don't know if they still have that category, but special class special, which meant it was a special one-off, like the Macy's Day Parade, okay. Or other, specials that may have come out at that time. So that's what we won the Emmy for.
So I guess my last wrap up on the Emmys, and then we'll get to what you're doing now and the board of trustees, because I definitely want to tap that. To this point, what would you say has been your biggest accomplishment for you, like personal accomplishment, I guess?
Oh boy, my biggest personal accomplishment. I feel like I've accomplished a lot. Um, Quite frankly, where I am now, I feel has been my biggest accomplishment. Um, but also Bethany. I don't want to discount that. Bethany was a massive accomplishment for me. And I say that with all sincerity, and it's not because I'm on Dingo Talk. It's because I really truly feel like Bethany was a moment in my life that I needed. Um, not that I came from a troubled family by any means. I came from a very close knit family that was all about education, actually. But it was a moment for me because I feel like I was able to do it on my own. I said I want to go away. I wanted to be gone from home and do what I need to do. But yes, my current position is it's an accomplishment.
And let's jump right into that. That leads me to I have a question here on my notes. That what do you do now?
What do I do now?
Which I know it's Netflix. And
yes,
what goes into the day to day with your job?
So my parents still ask this question. My mom, I should say, asked this question, and my dad did for many years. I'll tell you what my type of position does, and I'll tell you what I do in my daily life. So my type of position is production management. So there's the creative side and there's the business side of television or film. And I'm making that quite simple. I'm saying that in the most simplest of terms. The creative side is not the side I'm on. Creative side, that's what you see forward facing. That would be you, on camera, what we see and what we're viewing. And then perhaps your producers behind the scenes for you. That's where I am, and making sure that whatever you as a talent on camera, of course, as you know, making sure that you have everything you need. The guests are booked, making sure that the budget is where the network wants it to be. The crew is in place, insurance policies, everything is good, so that on day one, when you clap the clapper, the director is able to just move forward without any hesitation. So that's what I take care of. What you see on camera, my team and I are behind the scenes making sure we get to that, so that it gets to your screen.
And then in the day-to-day, that covers the day-to-day as well. It seems like you're probably in meetings in and out. And
yeah. So then to sort of talk about my current position. So I'm vice president of production management for the UCAN, which can also be known as North America. So I handle all verticals, including nonfiction series, documentary, indie film, big budget, mid-budget film, and series. So I've dealing with things like The Queen's Gambit, dealing with what we have on right now, clickbait. So hopefully your watchers, your viewers watch that as well. But clickbait, all the way over to Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, and then a lot of our big budget movies that we have on as well. The Irishman, or
I was hoping that was going to be the one that came.
There you go, The Irishman, right? La Casa de Papel, right? Money Heist. Those are things that I now have the ability to work on, and the pleasure and honestly the privilege to work on. But that's what my day to day is really. I like to, the way I used to tell my parents is, I'm a well-paid firefighter. I'm putting out fires all day long, and I'm a fire starts, and my team and I are there to help put it out, and quite frankly, we pave roads for the creatives as well, to make sure that there are no bumps in the road. And we're sweating until we get up to day one, where we are finally shooting, and then we start sweating again until post is complete, and it's on air. And then once it's on air, we're not thinking about it. That then goes on to marketing and publicity and whatnot. We're well on to the next project. At Netflix, we have hundreds of productions and thousands of hours of content that you obviously can see and on our platform. Yeah, I'm dealing with all of those in some form or fashion. I have an amazing team of leaders that I get to work with, that they have it, they know what they're doing. I'm there guiding them.
So what, I guess you popped a question into my head there.
Sure.
With the amount of productions.
Sure.
What is there ever, is it just one and then you move on to the next, or is it maybe three and they all get their own allotted time for you to do your side of the laying the road so the fire truck can come down if it needs to be?
I would say in the position that I'm in, it's definitely more multiple than it is singular. So at any given time, we could have 8, 9, 10 movies shooting at one time. We could have 8, 9, 10, 11 shows shooting, series shooting at one time. We could have Bridgerton shooting in London, and then we'll have something shooting in Albuquerque for, like Cholpa is a movie that we're shooting in Albuquerque right now. So we have the gamma. Ozark shooting in Atlanta. We literally have them churning out, because if you think about Netflix, you can think about the amount of clicks you can press on your remote control. That will get you virtually anything you want. That's because we're constantly shooting and churning them out to get them on camera, get them on screen. So we are besting ourselves year over year. And we're doing that, quite frankly, because the community wants it. And that's what people are needing, especially in these really difficult times. People are needing that escape to entertainment.
Is there with the competition, because I know that there's now, Disney's got their platform and
Sure.
HBO has their platform now, and Discovery has its platform. Is that where you feel a lot of the entertainment industry is going to continue to migrate towards? And maybe does it eliminate the movie theater aspect of things, or does it still go to movies and then it'll end up with Netflix or with HBO or whoever?
Well, listen, I think no matter how you look at it, the movie going experience because of the pandemic has now drastically changed. Mm-hmm. Do I feel that movie theaters themselves are going away? I wouldn't say that immediately. We are, entertainment is entertainment, in whatever form of entertainment it can be. And I say that from the perspective of during the pandemic, people were still going to the theater. It was just a drive-in theater. Yeah. So what was old was new again. Or people stayed home and they watched Netflix, thankfully, or they watched Hulu or the other streamers, Disney. So I just think the way that we're going to consume our entertainment is just going to change, and the pandemic, I think, just sped that up a little bit. Okay. However, I was a part of a very large team that helped launch Discovery Plus. So I was, for a year and a half, I was working on that at Discovery. And quite frankly, I'm proud that I was able to leave at the time. Literally, I made my announcement that I was leaving Discovery the day that Discovery D Plus was announced. And for me, that was a moment because I had worked on these linear channels for 8 years. And then now we have Discovery Plus, and as it became, more of that stepping stone for mm-hmm. Discovery. Netflix, Discovery, Hulu, Amazon, Apple, we all have something to offer. At Netflix, we have our originals, and that is our we are striving for that to build on that.
So let's bring it. You were just here a couple weeks ago. There was a big retreat for the board of trustees here in our small little neck of the woods.
As I heard, there was a retreat, huh?
I heard that I heard it on a show at some point with one Mr. Ken Beto, but so
there's that.
well, first, when did you become a board of trustee?
Oh gosh, I don't remember the year actually. I guess that's something I should know. I believe I joined the board in either 2013 or 2014.
And what was the reasoning behind wanting to get involved? And you've touched on a lot of reasons why, what Bethany means to you, but what was the, yep, this is what I'm going to do, and this is where I want to be?
So Sven, whom everybody knows as just Sven, like Janet or Madonna. Just Sven. No, Sven called me one morning as I was driving in. I was on Laurel Canyon Boulevard. I'll never forget it. And I said, hey, Sven, it's a little early. You're okay. He said, no, I'm fine. He said, but whatever you do, when Scott calls you, just say yes. I said, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, he was talking about Scott Miller, Dr. Scott Miller, who was the president at the time of college. And he said, whatever you do, just say yes. Just say yes, and I'll explain later. So Scott Miller called me and he asked if I would be on the board. And I did say yes. And I would have said yes, even if Sven hadn't called me. Because for me, it was something that I realized in that moment, okay, my voice has value, and my voice has value for Bethany. The makeup of Bethany has changed over the years. The student population makeup has changed, and there are a lot more Black students on campus than there were when I was there. And so representation was very important to me when Scott asked, and I thought about that, and I thought, I wish there would have been better representation on the board when I was there. And here's now my chance to be a part of that representation. So that's really why I joined the board. Yes, in knowing that I was going to be able to make change or at least help foster change on campus. Yes, that is certainly part of it. But the biggest part and the biggest reason why I stay on the board is because they're really, in this day and age, representation is quite important. And that's not just from a Black perspective, that's from a female perspective or Asian perspective. We have to start to change the narrative and the look and the outlook.
So we're now fast forward to this meeting.
Yeah.
That took place, and it was a couple of days. You guys were here for almost a week, right?
2 or 3 days. Yeah. And it was hot. It was really hot that day. I just remember
that whole week. It was like the sun went down and the heat didn't turn off.
It didn't turn off. Yeah, I did not understand that. But anyway, but we digress.
So and if there's certain things that you can't say, obviously, because there's plans and whatnot that have to go through other channels. Yeah. But what were some of the things that when the Board of Trustees came together this year prior to the semester starting? What were some of the things you guys were really looking to focus on and not just improve, but just like you said, the fostering of change that's already started to happen here at Bethany?
Sure. Yeah. So the board meets typically in person twice a year. Because of the pandemic, we haven't actually been able to accomplish that in the past couple of years. So the board retreat was important for all of us to be able to come together, safely, obviously, and really start to dig in on just the college itself. When we come in for the board, it's when we're coming for the other board meetings, the usual board meetings, or the regular board meetings, I should say. Many times it is, we're there, we're doing the business, and then we're out. And that's it. This time we were taking tours of the campus. We were talking to the professors. We invited the professors to come talk to us. We saw some students. Obviously, you guys, they were not in session, but we saw some students on campus. We ate at the cafeteria, so we were able to be a little more. We were able to see behind the onion peel, if you will, a couple layers behind it. Listen, the goal of a board, and the goal of this board is to always just take stock of what's going on, so that we have a fiduciary responsibility to maintain the college. The president and the cabinet, that it is their job to run the college, but there's a responsibility of the board to maintain that the college is on track. So whether that's from a policy perspective, whether that's a student life perspective, whether it's a financial perspective, it is our responsibility. So for that particular retreat, it was really just starting to dive into all of that. We have a new chair, Ken Beto. We have a new chair. So with Ken being there, it was his opportunity to really dive in even more as well on all aspects of the board, who the board members are, and quite frankly, and there were new board members, so he even did a day with new board members, a full day with new board members, to get to know them, because we need to have that camaraderie between us if we're going to make a singular decision for the college.
Can I ask what the biggest takeaway was from this? I've done this one. I'm gonna.
You're a great interviewer, Carlos. Biggest takeaway for me, personally, is Bethany is here to stay. Bethany, like every college and university, the pandemic was tough, but to see the numbers, the low numbers of COVID cases that actually ended up somehow coming in or around, and I don't know exactly how close they got to campus, to be able to manage that with, let's just call it, 1,200 people. I know there's more students, there's less students than that, but 1,200 people for the community. My biggest takeaway was Bethany is strong, Bethany's resilient, and Bethany's here to stay. Those three factors for me, I think it's important to your audience, Carlos, who are Bethany alum, or folks who may be thinking about coming to Bethany. It is important for everyone to know that the board and the president and the cabinet are doing everything possible to make sure that the memories we all had continue on in present and future day.
And that leads, you kind of snuck out that one out on me. But my last question, if you were talking to we'll say a senior in high school right now, they're doing their search. Why Bethany? What separates us here from a smaller school? Because there are a couple in this area, with West Liberty and Wheeling and Franciscan, just to name the ones literally right in this little bubble. Yeah. Why Bethany?
Two reasons. If you want a college, go somewhere else. If you want an experience, come to Bethany. We used to have a tagline that we don't use as much anymore, and that is Bethany is a small college of national distinction. And I hold that very close to my heart, because unlike my husband graduated from Princeton University. Ivy League, graduated with honors, and then went on to UC Hastings, another fantastic school for law school. He's impressed with Bethany, and that's saying a lot for a Princeton alum to say I'm impressed with Bethany, because there is a distinction to it and there's an experience behind it. Every college and university, yes, has its own experience, but I feel like there's a uniqueness to Bethany, and Bethany's not for everyone. It just isn't.
It's not.
But neither is University of Georgia, neither is Miami University, neither is Arizona State University. And yes, I probably could have gone to one of those colleges. I wanted an experience. I wanted a personalized experience. I wanted to understand me more than understand the school. The school was the vehicle. And I was able to get in and sit down, and they drove me around to the different experiences that I needed to see. And they said, and it wasn't I was, I'm sure you've heard this before too. I was a person, not a number. So for me, that's what I would say to someone coming in is, if you just want a college, then Bethany may not be the place for you. If you want an experience and a positive experience, I think you should think about Bethany.
Well, I think that touches on what you said with Bethany not being for everyone. Is if you just want to go to college and you want that the college feel and this, that, and the other, but you're really just there because it's Georgia or it's Miami or it's this, that, Bethany's not going to be for you, and you're not going to take advantage of the experiences that are afforded to you. I've been mulling over a later episode. And that's something that I kind of want to get that message more across, is that yes, Bethany is small, but that does not mean that it's small because liberal arts colleges are struggling, but it's also small because Bethany picks. And I don't mean like you as the board of trustees or the admissions counselor. Right. Bethany, the experience, it either picks you or you wind up down the road somewhere else, and it's just not for everybody.
Well, and not only that, and you're hitting the nail on the head. It's not for everybody, as we both said. But Bethany is a place that you have to. Let me put it a different way. We don't make apologies. We shouldn't make apologies as Bethany alum for the size of our college, the location of our college. We shouldn't make apologies. We shouldn't say, oh yeah, but I know it's rural, but you're gonna love it, right? No, it's rural, it's small, everyone, your student-teacher ratio, your professors have, that's how we should be looking at it. Absolutely. And that's, so long as we have that in mind, then we're going to continue just to thrive. Again, every college is having its issues. Every college is having its greater issues because of the pandemic. Bethany is not immune to it. If it was, I would be questioning why is it not immune, right?
Yeah.
Princeton is having its own issues. Harvard's having its own issues, right? So yes, are there issues that we're managing? Sure, but everybody is. But the key takeaway is, what are you doing about it? And having the retreat with the board of trustees, having Dr. Rodenberg there, being present with her cabinet, with staff, with faculty, that signaled for me, okay, I want to remain on the board because this is, everyone's serious. Everyone wants good for Bethany. No one is saying, yeah, I'm leaving, see you later, won't talk to you guys again.
Well, Jhamal, I think that was the best way to wrap our conversation up. I want to say thank you again for taking time. I know it's busy. As we found out, it's a busy day for you. Thank you very much for being a member of the trustees as well, and sticking around with the member of the trustees. It's great that there's more voices from what I've seen from the board. They represent all different generations.
Great.
This has been the Dingo Talk Alumni Tour. I am Cartwright and my guest, Jhamal Robinson, class of 1998. Do not forget, 10 a.m. every Thursday, Chuckleheads on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And I think we have a TikTok. Do we have a TikTok? I think we have one of those. We kind of have, I just got the signal. We kind of have a TikTok. So follow it and maybe it'll grow bigger. So Jhamal, thank you very much.
Thanks, Carlos.
We'll see you guys next week.
You wanna know by now. You wanna know